U.S. taxpayers are out about $3.5 million to protect Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt during his first year in office. That total includes $2.7 million on salary and overtime and more than $750,000 in travel costs. CBS News White House reporter Jackie Alemany is at the White House and joins us now. Hi, Jackie. How
Hey,
do
Tanya.
these costs compare to past EPA administrators?
Well, $3.5 million for just 1 year in office is a pretty staggering figure, and it's double the amount of previous EPA administrators. The EPA OIG, Patrick Sullivan, claimed that Administrator Pruitt faced unprecedented threats and double the amount of threats that his predecessor under Obama, Gina McCarthy, did, hence the amount of money spent on his security detail. But again, this is a staggering figure.
As you mentioned, he says that he faces greater safety risks than his predecessors. Do we have any way of knowing whether this is true?
Yes, so my colleague Arden, Farhi, and I, who helped me on this story today, we actually broke the news a few months ago on the level of threats, which ranged in credibility, severity, and types of threats. There were about 13 of them. Some of them were tweets threatening to, quote, put a bullet through the administrator's head. There were also menacing Facebook messages being sent to the administrator's daughter. So there were a range of threats that the administrator was facing. But, you know, it's really unclear how credible most of those were.
Now, how is the administrator justifying costs that are not security related? Because there are plenty of those.
You're referring to the travel costs, right?
Right. And decorating of the office.
Yeah, the $43,000 phone booth. There are excuses for a lot of these really vast expenditures that range from item to item. You know, for example, the administrator spent $7,000 alone on a first-class flight back and forth from Washington, D.C. to Milan for a conference, which was triple the amount that his staffers had spent. You know, they've claimed that the administrator needed to fly first class because of these security threats, that he needed to spend $43,000 on a soundproof phone booth because of, you know, other precautions taken. So the excuses just keep coming, although they don't really seem to be sticking, as the administrator still has his job.
Well, that's my next question, because he has been a target of a number of investigations over his spending. What's the latest on those investigations?
Yes, so the administrator faces at least 10 different investigations, which is, again, a very high figure and potentially unprecedented. Although Administrator Pruitt did actually attend a hearing on the Hill a month or two ago to answer questions from lawmakers about all of these different investigations into various ethical entanglements. And the White House here told me after those hearings that the administrator really exonerated himself. But we got in touch with the EPA Office of Inspector General this morning. They couldn't comment on which investigations are still ongoing and said that actually only 5 of the investigations are public at the moment. But really, they range from the administrator giving raises to various staffers using different policy loopholes, to having a 20-person security detail, which was double the amount of Gina McCarthy, to, again, various upgrades to his office. And then there's also, infamously, his housing arrangement, which is really the story that sort of, you know, catapulted all of the investigations into the administrator.
Certainly. And Jackie, has President Trump himself weighed in?
You know, the president hasn't weighed in a few weeks. I think he's been busy with a lot of other things, with North Korea, with the Iran deal, and this hasn't really risen to his attention. Additionally, Administrator Pruitt has enjoyed ample support from lawmakers on the Hill who have come to his defense. During his congressional hearings, it was like watching 2 different hearings. You had Democrats calling for his resignation, and you had Republicans singing his praises for being the most effective EPA administrator that they've ever seen. And the president seems to agree with that. I have sources inside the White House who have told me that there has been mixed opinions on the administrator's status, that there are some senior White House officials who do want him to go, but they add a caveat to that, which is that at the end of of the day, the only opinion that matters is the president's, and he has yet to fire Administrator Pruitt.
Yep, the spending is pretty shocking, though. Jackie Alemany at the White House, thank you for your insight.
Thanks, Tanya.